Let's call this meeting to order. Number 2, moment of silence. Would like for you to give Dr. Zavaleta, a former board member, in your prayers, please. Thank you. Rick?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Just, Ms. Perez, just let it reflect that Mr. Colunga and Mr. Cortez are not here today. I understand Mr. Cortez will be absent. We have not heard from Mr. Colunga. Okay. Number 5.
Item 5, recommend approving the agenda of the regular board meeting of February 2nd, 2010 with any corrections or deletions.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Under general function,
Okay.
under C, budget amendments, item number 21, pages 221 will be replaced with pages 221A.
Okay.
Under D, contract and agreements, item number 27, pages 230, 231, 232 will be deleted from the agenda and backup.
Okay. Anything else?
I move to approve the agenda.
It's been moved to approve the
second
agenda.
that.
Second by Mr. Sados. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Thank you.
Item 6, recommend approving the consent agenda. The board has agreed to discuss the following items. All of the items below that are not called out will be approved by consent.
My colleagues want to discuss number 17, 18, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, and 29. Anyone else?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Has been moved to approve the consent agenda. Second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Okay. Ms. Perez?
Conference presentations. 1, recognition of Cromack Elementary, Texas Education Agency, TEA, demonstration site.
Mr. Sprinton, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'll go ahead and introduce Ms. Rachel Ayala, and she'll start off this presentation for us.
Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springton, at this time, I would like to introduce the project director, Mary Lou Montemayor, to do the presentation.
Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springston, board members, area assistant superintendents, ladies and gentlemen, on July 25th, 2009, the Texas Education Agency announced the availability of funds for the purpose of capacity building and demonstration site in reading. Of all the Reading First schools across the state, only 16 schools were chosen from throughout the state that qualified for this funding. Cromack Elementary was the only site, the only school, a public school in the Region 1 area that was chosen, that was given this honor. Cromack became an official demonstration site on October 1st, 2009. Really, again, the only Reading First public school in Region 1. The school received $300,000 grant to prepare the school to share the journey that they've been in with other schools across Region 1 and beyond. Cromack Elementary was a top performer with the greatest growth in K-3 reading outcome from the beginning of Reading First in 2004, 2005, to 2007, 2008. And the schools that Cromack competed against were schools in the mid-urban school district, so it wasn't a small accomplishment. Mrs. Carmelita Rodriguez, principal of Cromack Elementary, the reading coach, Marisela Franco, facilitator, teacher leaders, and the entire staff took on the responsibility of becoming a Texas Education Agency demonstration site with much pride and passion. And I saw this pride and passion again this morning, okay? I was given the privilege to take part in presenting Cromack Elementary with this plaque that Mrs. Garcia will present, Mrs. Rodriguez and staff. And the certificate reads, recognition of Cromack Elementary, named capacity building demonstration site by the Texas Education Agency. Look, ladies and gentlemen, for this school to show even greater gains in K-5 reading in this coming school year. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Again, congratulations and excellent job. Well done.
Item 2, recognition of chess teams for participation in National K-12 Grade Scholastic Chess Championship.
Mrs. Springton, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'm going to have, and Mr. Hammonds is not here today, and so, who is? Corina, are you here? Oh, there you are. Okay.
No, Ms. Sharon Moore.
Ms. Sharon Moore, come on up. Y'all can do this together. I know Mr. Hammonds is at a conference.
Yes, he's at a conference. It's my privilege to step in for him today. Good evening, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springston, and members of the board. As Pat indicated, the National K-12 Scholastic Chess Championship was held on December the 11th through the 13th in Dallas, Texas. The tournament attracted teams from New York, New Mexico, Virginia, and many other United States states. But Brownsville ISD was represented at this tournament by Hudson Elementary School, Paredes Elementary School, and Vela Middle School. And Corina Caballero, our UIL chess coordinator, will now present to you the BISD teams that placed in the top 6 in their respective categories at this very prestigious tournament. Corina?
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Good evening, Board President Mr. Aguilar, Superintendent Mr. Springston, and members of the board. It is my honor and my privilege to present to you the National Grade K-12 Championship members that have participated in the past, and we're always going back and making sure that we defend our titles at our nationals. As some of you know, our greatest rival is always New York. And again, the Hudson team, the second grade team, they placed second behind the New York team, again, by half a point. They earned 13 points, and the New York team got 13.5 points. So we are very proud of our second grade team. The team consists of Alfonso Salais, Troy Trevino, Ramses Linan, Jorge Mares, and Norberto Manzanares. Hudson also took a third grade team, and they placed 6th, and we would like just to recognize them for their 9.5 points, which the team consisted of Priya Trecru, Jose Castillo, and Ariel Garza. So congratulations to the Hudson team, their coaches, Mr. Luis Gomez and Mr. Sergio Novello. and their principal, Dr. Rita Hernandez.
He's so cute.
We'll just continue with the number
Gorgeous.
all the order.
The Vela team also participated. The 8th grade team placed third with a total of 12.5 points.
Thank you.
Wait, let's Bella present it, and then we'll take a picture of everybody. Okay. Just don't leave.
Bella's next, right here.
Okay, the Vela Middle School 8th grade team placed third with a total of 12.5 points. And today, representing that 8th grade team, we have Gabriel Gomez and Ian Santos. And the team consists of James Ucoli, Jeffrey Hung, Sergio Lambari, and Kyle Valdez. Their coaches representing the team today is Mr. Tony Mesa, along with Mr. Victor Flores, who's not with us today, and Manuel Marroquin, the assistant principal at Vela Middle School. Congratulations. Thank you, and next time that we see you, we will bring a team of regional winners, so we'll have a big team next time that we come. Thank you.
Great. Good job.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Number 4, Pat.
Item 3, sir.
They're not here yet.
4.
Number 4.
Running a little late.
Presentation of 2010-2011 budget calendar.
Sprinton.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you have any questions at this time, we can go over the budget calendar. I wanted to make sure that
Mr. President?
We had an opportunity to take a look at it, and yes, we did.
We just skipped it for now. We're going to go back to it.
There's a group that's not here yet. And if you have any questions, Mr. Reese is here. We can look at the calendar and make any changes necessary.
Ms. Perez
On the,
Garcia?
Yes. And this would be for the coming school year for
Yes,
this. And have we already, I guess we'll be discussing what staffing is going to be increased in certain areas and so forth.
Right.
Just to make sure that those departments,
Yeah, there's certain, with the new campuses, there are going to be some increases for such things that we call singletons, your librarian, your person that's going to be running the cafeteria, your assistant principals, just those different positions that every school has to have, head custodians, those types of things. We will be talking about those increases for those new schools and also security.
also, I was going to ask you, like, on the issues that we were discussing for the maintenance, can we look at maybe a report as to what pending items are in the database for maintenance that has been delayed, such as, like, for instance, the Porter High School, that was a situation that we need to repair, maybe things that need to have priority. Could we go ahead and start seeing some of that, which I know that Mr. Sias will probably be having a facilities meeting, but so we can possibly look at the numbers for the next school
We're
year?
going, and just to jump ahead on some of the items that you have on the agenda a little bit later that are circled under budget amendment, especially talking about the propositions 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll be talking at a little bit later date about those monies that will be left over from those propositions once we pay off all of the projects that we have done with projects 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's going to be some monies that are going to be left over. Once those monies are left over, we'll start looking at those priority needs that we had already looked at, such as re-roofing, HVAC, we can look at fire alarm systems, we can look at upgrades, and some of those things that we had discussed in our previous meeting. Like I know there was a school that we had talked about that had a bad roofing problem. There are some things that we can come back and start using those funds for to complete other projects.
Okay. Okay.
Next.
Item 5, presentation of the Brownsville Independent School District Quarterly Investment Report for the period ended September 30, 2009.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we have any questions at this time, we'll be glad to answer those things for you.
Item 6, presentation of the 2008-2009 Preliminary Academic Excellence Indicator System, AEIS, District and Campus Reports.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are moving right along this evening, and Ms. Pena, if you would like to go ahead and introduce our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Springston, Mr. Aguilar, members of the board. At this time, I would ask that Mr. Raul Vasquez, Administrator for Assessment, and Mr. Ben Estrada will be making this report for you.
Mr. Board President, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Springston, and the board members. This is a annual presentation that has to be given to the board every year once we receive the AIS report. After this presentation, it will be given to the Public Information Office, so it will be on our website for the general public. And then we will also give each individual campus their section. During the 2009 administration, 96.6% of all students enrolled 3rd through 11th were tested with tax accommodated tax-am and tax-alt, an increase of 0.1% from the 2008. 85.9% of the students tested were included in the academic. On page 2, you will see the academic ratings of the schools and both. And on the second part, it also has your campus ratings, so you can have how many were at the different categories. On the page 3, you have the enrollment count, and this gives you a complete breakdown of all the enrollments in the district and how many schools we have at what enrollment. The all-campus types gives you both your regular campuses and your alternative campuses. And it also gives you a number of students that are involved in those two different sections. On the next section, you have the ethnicity and the economic status of the district. And there you start seeing where it's comparing you from 2008 to 2009. And on the grade span, it also gives you a 2008-2009 comparison. It also gives you the number of programs that are included in this district from 2008-2009, and whether there were any increases in any of those three sections from the previous year. The math standard is, on the next page, is a summary of all grades tested and the accountability indicators, and that breaks it down by ethnicity. And it also breaks it down by subjects, and it breaks it down by state, region, and district. It also, the next section gives you by special group populations. And it also there compares us with the state and the region. On the next two sections, you're talking about the participation rate of the students from 3rd through 11th. It gives you in one section where you compare yourself with the region and the state, and on the other one, it gives you the number of students tested in different areas. And when you see a mobility subsection there, is because our district is very mobile. So it also gives us a breakdown on that. On the next page, and when you get to the graduation, and when we get to this section, you will see 2008, because all of that always falls a year behind. So you will see your class of 2008 by ethnicity, graduation type, but the section that I feel is the most important in this report is the next one, because there, under the School Success Initiative, it shows us that in this district, 50% or more of our students had a 2200 and also a 3 on their ELA in both in reading and math. So everything points out, and I've said at the last presentation, this district is very well when it comes to their academics, because you will see that 51% of our students did it in ELA and 60% of our students in math. So that's tremendous stuff there. The next one is college admission results, and there it breaks it down by group, and it also gives you the SAT scores, your SAT scores, and how they did in those areas. The next one gives you your attendance rate, and after that, you have your completion rate by class of 2008 for 4 years, and it also gives you a dropout by ethnicity on the next section, and that goes from grade 7 through 8th. The next page is the district staff category, because it breaks it down as to how your staff is broken down, how many teachers you have, and what is even their highest degree that they have accomplished that work in the school district. The next one, I'm sure you all are aware, is your budgetary funds and how they're utilized and what you get from different programs that are put into the system. The next one, it breaks it down, next page breaks it down by budgetary expenditures for the whole district. And then it also gives you how much you are spending per child in the district. The next section, and I know it's kind of small and you all have it in your CD a lot bigger, is your disciplinary action referrals and removals from regular classroom. It completely breaks it down by school and by incident as to why the child was removed from that campus. And then the other one talks about the removal from regular campuses as to where they went to, whether they were suspended, whether they went to an alternative campus, areas like that. The next one just gives you an idea of the violations that could occur, and that's why those students were removed. And that's all of the report. Like I said, once this is finished Every campus will get their own. The district will get theirs for the website. We will give one to the public library, so it'll be there also. Are there any questions?
First of all, Mr. President, if I may, if you'd give me a copy of that so that I can use that to pass out to the board members so they could have their own copy.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure they would like to have a better visual and,
Okay.
and having that at their hand.
Yes, sir.
My next question is, I know there was a lot of questions in there that had to deal with tax and how we compared with tax. I'm catching you off guard here, Raul, you and Ben both. I sent something out to the board that talked to them just a little bit briefly about STAR. The changes that are coming.
Okay. Basically, you know, STARS is in an embryonic stage right now. It's getting started. But I can assure you right now that in order for us to prepare our students for the EOCs, or the end of course tests, when you take an end of course test, and that's why I made it very, I wanted you all to see the section of this school initiative that 50%, 51%, and 60% got a 2,200 or better, and the other, because that means that you're on grade level at 2,200. You can pass a tax, and you don't have to be on grade level. Under STARS, to get the student to graduate with the end of course, you have to be on grade level. So that means, ladies and gentlemen of the board and audience, is that starting from 9th grade back, you need to prepare those students, so that test is going to be more rigorous, because you have to be on grade level to go from 3rd to 4th. Because if not, you will not be able to be on the catch-up game to be able to pass the EOC. And we can't have that. And as of right now, the way the state is looking at the EOC, the student can pass the coursework, fail the EOC, but they cannot take the course again. They can take the test again, but not the course again. So that means we're going to have to get very innovative about tutorials and stuff like that to prepare our students. And for us that have had children in college, when those students get to high school, they're going to have to be very closely monitored, because whoever failed needs to pass it next year and the year after that in order to meet the overall passing rate to graduate. If not, they will not graduate. So yes, Mr. Springston, this test will get very, very, very rigorous.
As we enter the STAR program, I know there's going to be a time period where our next test or test pretty soon, that accountability measure will take hold for 2 years.
Exactly.
And I want everyone in the general audience and the public to know that as we go through these transitional stages, that we are most definitely planning for these stages. We talk about them in our cabinet meetings, and I know the AAs are visiting with their principals. We're preparing for the STAR, but at the same time, we're planning and looking at staffing, and we're looking at things that we have to do for our older kids that are going into the high school, starting with that 9th grade, of being prepared and adjust to that end of course test. Because now it's not just taking an algebra test, which is considered part of geometry, algebra 2, algebra 1, and a few courses. It is specifically tied to algebra 1. And the English 1 course will be specifically tied to English 1. It will be an exact copy of that coursework. And so there's some changes that have to take place in those categories. And if you'll keep us updated, I would like to keep the board updated so that we're all in compliance, but also that we all know those changes as they are changing with us.
Yes, sir. And one more thing I want to say so the board will realize, all those tests, EOCs, will be online. They will not be paper and pencil. So we need to prepare for that, for the future on that. But we will I will keep you informed, we'll keep the board informed. Anything else, sir?
Also, yes, you know that the email that we received, it says that it it was mandated and passed in legislative session in 2009, which means that this new test will begin in 2011, 2012. Some of these students are already either getting ready to go into the middle school level, or some of those are 4th and 5th graders, which they have to be prepared. So what is it that we're going to be doing, so these students, by the time they get to the level, which is 7th grade, they're going to be prepared. What is it that we're going to be doing? Just tutorial? Are we going to change anything that could help the teacher or the staff to be able to help these students? Because obviously the email was sent to us that this is going to take place. There's no doubt that it's going to happen. So what are we going to do to implement immediately to make sure that these students are going to be prepared for the test that is going to change for them?
Mr. Springton.
Thank you.
I was wondering if, that's a good question, and of course, it's very obvious to see if that some change has to be done. Just looking at the data, I think the critical question is, what are we going to prepare? And that's the critical thing. Mr. Springton, I understand you say you're meeting with your staff, your AAs, all this in curriculum. Perhaps we can do this in a curriculum meeting, give you some time to come out with this planning that you're telling us that you're doing with your staff, and bring Raul in and all the curriculum people and let us know really how to prepare for the stars and in our school district. And I'm pretty sure you will come up with all these strategies that are needed there, because I have full confidence in our curriculum people and our staff and principals and teachers that we will be ready for this. I mean, we will teach for us to be
We will
successful.
monitor and we will adjust. We will adapt.
Well, because obviously we need to, the grades 3 to 8, reading, maths, and by law must be linked to, from the grade to perform expectations.
Yeah.
So, and I think that if you can just give us an up-to-date, see where we're at, what is it that we need to implement, and what is it that we're going to have to invest in, so to make sure that our staff is even prepared for the change also as well.
That will not be a problem. And in fact, I can work with Ms. Monfils and we can give you some constant updates because Mr. Vasquez made a point when he talked about kids being on grade level in order to pass, and that is where we're moving to, and so we're looking at more rigor. When I talked to you all about the ceiling going up for the scores and the values of the system going up, the accountability is rising, and so we have to rise to those occasions with that accountability standards. We're looking at the 4x4 when it comes into the high school, having 4 science classes that have to be taught. We're looking at creative ways that we can get that done. And we're working with Mr. Reyes in career and technology, because the state has now passed certain courses that are under career and technology that are considered science courses that would help adapt and also be a part of the end of course test, that we can make the rigor and work together in different departments in order to reach these following goals. And I will keep you updated, and we will get together and make sure that you're updated with what we're doing on all the grade levels.
Okay.
Did you say that 51 of our students that tested, 51 were on grade level?
Well, when you look at page, let me go back to the page that I was referring to. When you go back to page number 6, under this Texas School Initiative, you're looking at, in reading and ELA, 51% of our students either got a 2200 plus a 3 on the writing, and 60% of our students got a 2200 or better in math.
In math. But my question, I guess what I'm leading to, out of the 51, 52%, what is the prediction that they will be doing fine when the new standard comes in? And see, and that is the question we need to look at. If you have 51, are we going to get better or are we going to get worse? It stands to reason that every time we have new, the 51% will not be there. You see, can we predict more or less by the data that you have right now and say, well, you know what, out of the 51, let's say 48% will not do well, or 55% will have an increase of 5%, and we prepare it this way.
I can tell you this, Mr. Aguilar, that 51% of our students would do just fine because they're scoring 2200 or better. But we've got 40-some% that we need to bring up, because those students would be the ones that would be in trouble. And in math, you would have at least 40% of the students. Of course, this test is a lot different from the test that we're going to bring in. So the predictability would have to come in at least 1 or 2 years from now, once we have an idea as to...
I'm not trying to create a problem, but that's why I'm going to ask Mr. Colunga to give a curriculum, because I believe there's some objectives that are going to be standard. And so definitely if you teach those objectives, you can predict more or less how those students are going to perform, since they already have mastered certain objectives, and certain subjects have not. So, and I think you can get that data from that information from the data that you have already in existence right here. So that's why I'm saying, I'm pretty sure you have not done it, but it's obviously that if you go to the computer and extract some of that data, some of the students' data, and across the board, and it's not going to be 100% accurate because no data, no statistic is accurate, but you can predict perhaps 2 or 3 points up or down. So
We should definitely have something by the time
Yes.
the curriculum committee meets.
yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And you see, really, Mr. Vasquez, I guess because they're making it very clear to us that the test is going to be significantly more rigorous than the previous test and will measure the child's performance as well as the academic growth. I think that we have data right now that has been given to us where our third graders are. And I think by now we should be able to see, okay, we have this data. What are we going to do to be able to help this child like he's saying? I mean, they're giving us the heads up already. We need to act and we need to move on this pretty quick and start getting the data wherever we need to get it from so we can make the decision. And once the curriculum is, set in place, we can get going with it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Pat, number 3. Everybody's here?
Item 3, recognition of students who have represented our community and the prior students of BISD who started the business and have been successful. Board member request.
Yes, Mr. President, Mr. Springston, I asked for this item to be brought up to the community because for the simple reason that some of these, the students, Mr. Jaime and Jose Angel Rodriguez, were BISD students, and with great desire, they decided to start a business of Taekwondo, not knowing that they were only going to start the first year with 4 students, going to college, trying to hold a job, and at the same time run their business. They've been extremely successful, and I'd like to thank them, before the board and in front of the public audience because they've vested many, many hours in trying to keep these students out of the streets and yet focused to make sure that they do well in school as well. These students are extremely disciplined. These students are also belong to our school district, and I would like to give them a certificate for their accomplishment. Mr. Jaime Rodriguez and Jose Angel Rodriguez are both brothers, and they have a group of students that have either been gold medalists, silver, and bronze. Their Olympic Taekwondo Academy established on January the 15th of 2007, and like I said, they began with 4 students, and now they have over 100 students enrolled in their business. The Olympic Taekwondo Academy became one of the top schools in South Texas by earning 13 medals in their participation in the Junior Olympics Taekwondo tournament in Dallas, Texas, from June the 29th to July the 3rd of 2009. And I would like to present them with their certificates.
Good evening. My name is Connie Perez, and my daughter Samantha is a student at Olympic Taekwondo Academy. On behalf of our coaches, Master Eduardo, Jose Angel, Jaime Rodriguez, our parents, and our students at Olympic Taekwondo Academy, we would like to thank our board president, Mr. Aguilar, our board members, and our superintendent, Mr. Springston, for honoring our students this evening. For the past 3 years, Olympic Taekwondo Academy has provided its students the opportunity to grow as individuals and athletes. The coaches not only focus on our children's forms and sparring, but they help build character, strong minds, and self-esteem. Our students learn the importance of discipline not only in the sport, but in other areas such as in school with teachers and in the classroom. All of these students attend practice 3 times a week, and when preparing for the national qualifiers, students also practice on Saturdays. It is not about exercising only. It's about getting good grades, discipline at school, and being an outstanding student. The students eat healthy and maintain a constant weight in order to not get disqualified from their division. These children are committed. Our students also learn the importance of teamwork and looking out for one another. This building of teamwork is not only at the academy, but they also have made lifelong friends with their teammates and their coaches. Olympic Taekwondo Academy is committed to assisting BISD teachers in achieving their goals in shaping the minds and bodies of our youth today. On May 8th, these students and several others will be attending the national qualifiers in Dallas, Texas. Those students who qualify will once again be able to participate at the National Junior Olympics this year in Orlando, Florida, which will be held from June 29th through July 2nd. We thank you once again for your kindness and your generosity and for taking the time to recognize Olympic Taekwondo Academy and our outstanding children. And now these students will have a brief demonstration.
And now I'm gonna go ahead and give your all certificate. Instructor Jaime Rodriguez, if you could please come for your certificate.
Excuse me, Ms. Presas.
Yes.
Can we hold the certificates till they'll do their little performance? Because then they
Oh,
won't be able to
absolutely.
hold
Yes,
it.
that's fine. Is that what you want to see?
Thank-
Okay, fine.
May we please?
Guys, Chambay, Chariot, Pinji. Ready? Right instance. Chambay. Points forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Side 1. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. Taekwondo. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. Chambay. Partisans. Front kick, right foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Axe kick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Double kick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chambay. Move back a little bit, guys. There we go. Chambay. Shallow fighting. Person to person. Face each other. Ready? Fighting saves. Go. Hello, next you. Go. Hello, next you. Go. Hello, next you. Go.
I wouldn't want to be a bully around you guys, not with those kicks. Okay, the next certificate will be for Eduardo Rodriguez, which is the instructor. Our third instructor is Jose Angel Rodriguez. And I'm going to call them the gold medalist, Raúl Treviño. Jesús García. Gerardo González. Giovanni González. Brenda Rubiano. Brenda Rubiano is a silver medalist. Congratulations. Viviana Lozano, silver. She's first place also. And Edelia Castillo, which is gold. Yes. First place, Brighton Cantu. First place also, Emmanuel Treviño. Samantha Perez, second place. Segundo Rubiano, second place. John Leija, third place. And Kayla Garcia, who's not here today. Thank you. And thank you for doing such a good job.
Yes.
That'll work.
Thank you, guys.
Again, thank you very much for this recognition.
Congratulations and excellent.
Thank you.
Presentation.
Woo.
Does that remind you of your days, Mr. Sayas? Does that remind you of your days? Legal. Does that remind you of his early?
Oh,
Like that.
really? Your son doesn't go to Kauai?
Number 7.
Item 7, presentation of notification of contingency fund change orders.
Mr. Springton?
Thank you, Mr. President. If you have any questions about the change orders, I'll be glad to more than happy to answer those things now.
Yeah, I did have some questions.
Okay.
I don't know what degree.
On the initial change order, it seemed like an excessive amount for 8 cameras, $48,000. Does that mean $66,000 a camera?
That's about correct, sir.
Is that what they run?
When you got outdoor cameras, they're a little bit more expensive, and I think we have what? Cesar, are you here?
Over here.
I know I saw him just a while
He's right
ago.
over there.
Where you are? The types of cameras that we were using, where we're looking at the durability and for the long lasting. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Aguilar, board members, Mr. Springston. In this project, we left out these outdoor cameras precisely because when we were doing the design, there was some question as to the type of cameras we would want it. And police chief and his department were looking at to increase the visibility of some of these cameras. They were having problems in previous projects. So we intentionally left these 8 cameras, outdoor cameras, out of the project. And now that we have the project completed, the cameras were bought and will be installed as per the police department's specifications.
And my question, and sure his too, was that I know that we had tried other cameras in the past, and we'd even installed cameras on top of light poles, and we had noticed that the type of cameras that we had bought, there was a lot of shaking. Am I right, Chief? When we were talking about it, it wasn't showing a lot of different areas, and it was real fuzzy, and we had to go to a different branded camera, and it was more for the safety of the campus itself. The outside, we would know everything that was going on, and it'd be highly visible, and we could do some zooming with these types of cameras. Chief, could you give me some more information? I just know that was the reason for that cost.
Yes, sir. Thank you, members of the board, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springston. We do have actually gravitated to a new system of cameras that allow us to do more of a IP format and a high-definition camera. It's a megapixel camera. It's actually also this particular camera will allow us to feed some of that surveillance into our command center at the dispatch center. So it allows us to do a better visual surveillance of all of our properties and enhance the security net that we're currently building.
I guess this question is more for Cesar. With regards to that, Cesar, how do you know that because this is the general contractor giving you a price, right?
Yes, it's through their subcontractors, the one that actually did the cameras inside the building.
Okay. And how do you know that's fair price, or is they gouging you? How do you know?
Well, we go through the architect, they get the price, and they check to see what prices would be in the market. Now, this price does include also not only the cameras, but the installation, the conduit and wiring, and the programming inside. So we don't just give a go-ahead. Architect does the check and follow up, and if he thinks it's too much, and we have some projects where we got some prices that are too high, we just either won't do it or try to negotiate a lower price. So this was reviewed by the architect, and his recommendation was to go with this price.
Is this, are you done, Mr. Sias?
I'm done.
On these cameras, what's the dimension of feet that you can see or visualize? Is it just interior or exterior? How far off can you see or visualize with this type of camera? How far will it pick up?
The exterior camera usually goes approximately 300 yards. It all depends on the type of, if it's a pan-tilt zoom, which is called a PTZ, or a fixed camera. And then actually, some of these cameras come with a wide-angle lens. And we're recommending actually a fixed camera to some of the outer perimeters of our schools. With the PTZ, as you very well know, PTZ does basically what it is, pan, tilt, zoom. And so you have to really manage that camera so that camera can serve that purpose, PTZ. It's usually between 300 yards to 600 yards. It depends on the system that we're recommending. I think the model here, I haven't seen the actual spec, but that's usually what we recommend, that these cameras have a pretty good distance in terms of visual surveillance. These are high-grade camera systems. These are actually camera systems that are utilized in federal buildings, state prisons. This is not your average commercial camera system.
Mr. Aguilar?
Go ahead.
Mr. Springston, Chief,
Yes.
so you're saying we're getting top quality?
Absolutely.
So we went for the best of the best. It's not going to be outdated next year by the time it gets installed?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Thank you.
Now that we're in this subject, cameras, I'm pretty sure there are cameras on the campuses also, Mr. Springton. And perhaps you need to start looking at some of these updated cameras that are not working, especially at back. Now, since they've been installed, those cameras have never worked properly. In fact, when I was there a couple of weeks ago, still those don't check because perhaps outdated, whatever reason there might be, that perhaps now that we're buying these quality cameras, then perhaps the administration can go back and look at these cameras that we have on the campuses that are not working properly also, that perhaps they need to be replaced.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item 8, review and discuss Patillo External Audit Report and Internal Audit Reports regarding expenses of attorney fees. Board member request.
Mrs. Springton?
That
Ms.
was
Garcia.
Ms. Garcia's.
No, but normally we ask you so you can give
Yes,
us a review before we pass it on to the board member.
On that one, the report, I guess, did we get the copies of the reports?
Yes, I can do that, Ms. Flores. If you don't mind handing out that report for me, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Aguilar, Superintendent, and board members, and audience.
Thank you, ma'am.
What you're getting right now is an update of legal fees as requested by our chair, audit chair. And basically, it's a report that has been given in prior years as we review these expenditures. However, the latest information is as of February 2010. The legal fees expenditures for the 7 years that we tested was $3.4 million. However, as you can see on your first page, the legal fees have drastically been reduced from $176,318 from last year to $553,125 this year. Keep in mind that the year is not over. We still have February, March, April, May, and June to complete this cycle. The next page is a comparison of legal fees expenditures for the general fund and the special services. And just to give you an idea, the special services have been drastically declining from $293,521 to $62,540 as of today. The general fund was $582,797 and it's gone down to $490,585 as of today. So it's declining. It's a good sign. The next page is legal fees expenditures for general and special services from the different law firms and attorneys for your information. It's in alphabetical order, and it denotes every single firm and how much we have paid as of 2/2/2010. And again, the grand total for that period that we cover was $3.4 million. The last page is basically the totals per year for your information, because I know some of you might not like charts, but this is something that you can also view at your convenience. Are there any questions?
Okay. Okay. Mr. President, Mr. Springston, members of the board, I think this has been something that has been brought up to our attention, not just from internal audits, but you see, we have our staff that's doing their work diligently and trying to bring to us concerns and issues that we have as to the expenditures. And Mr. President, you sat on the committee of the audit, the last one we had in December, and they did share with us that it was really imperative that we try to make a change as to maybe hiring an internal attorney to help us with the fees of the special services and other internal services that they could provide for us. And I myself have done some research, and I know that Corpus Christi, they have an in-house counsel, and they have an outside counsel only if needed by the board members. And what they do is that if that counsel has an item that pertains to legal, that council will report to the day of the meeting. Other than that, if anything else goes within the system, your grievance, your due process for special ed, that attorney that they hire for in-house will do all of that for a flat salary, which to me it only makes sense that we start taking this matter more seriously and we start looking into our budget for this year and try to make sure that we can change this, because our expenditures have been pretty high. No matter how we look at it, yes, they drop, but we still have months ahead of us, and if we're at, that's what we have right now, 553. I mean, March, April, May, we still have 3 more months. That billing probably hasn't even come in. And I'm really asking this board to start taking it more seriously, that we start thinking as to how we're going to save money through the legal system.
Sure. And do you know how much Corpus Christi spent on their in-house counsel and how much overall attorney's fees they spent on outside counsel?
On outside counsel last year, they spent 162, and they paid their inside counsel 132.
And that 162 is for all outside counsel?
All outside counsel. Anything that pertains that the board might need.
And they pay how much for their in-house?
130. That's with their benefits. 130 includes their benefits.
You know how much of that is related to special education?
The inside counsel handles all of their special education, all the due process, and all the grievance. That's strictly what he does, and sees the contracts for the district also as well. In Corpus Christi, I compared it with the closest district that had the number of students with us, and they brought in their counsel 8 years ago because they were going through the same situation, that they were just spending year after year. They were over $500,000 through the due process, through the contracts of the district, and grievances that they had. And I just think from 250 to 500 and 800, that's a big difference. Did the Patello report, the Patello report did include that their recommendation is to look at other venues, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I believe in the management letter, they did ask if we could look into this to make the operation more effective and efficient, if I remember correctly, reading from the document. I don't have a copy of that with me. I don't know if Mr. CFO had a copy for your records, Mr. Robert Reese. I was not able to attend that meeting.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'm looking at the Mr. Springston and Ms. Flores. I'm looking at 2008-09. The present council we had was $741,000. That was last year, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
This year, so far, we have 259,000. And we had 229,000 for Navarro and Denton, which is like, do the math here real quick. You're looking at almost well over $500,000 between both of them, and the year's not over yet. Am I correct?
$500,000, yes, ma'am.
So my question is, as much as this subject seems to be walked around, that's a lot of money we're paying for attorneys. And I would just make sure, I want to stress what Ms. Presa says. We need to work really hard to look at how we can take care of this, because I see that Navarro and Walsh Anderson, they pretty much went dead even on what they collected from the district this year. Am I correct, Ms.?
Yes, ma'am, you're correct.
So I really want us to take that into consideration so we can save money for this district.
There's no reason, this is why we cannot save money. And we're going to save some money as long as people don't sue us in the school district. You see that what that report doesn't tell you, and you as an auditor should point this out to the public also, is that those big numbers that you have is because of the lawsuits against the district, that those attorneys build that kind of money. Isn't that correct, ma'am?
Yes, Mr. Aguilar, that's correct.
So I hope this year with all those lawsuits stop. In fact, today as I walk in, guess what? We got sued again. By whom? By employees that say, well, can I say it? You discriminate against me. It's coming against me. You see? Now, when are we going to stop this? As long as people sue us, that's how we're going to spend. Now, I can see her point where an attorney for the administration, they could be on consultant basis. And that would work because I think the county is going in that direction, isn't it? I read the newspaper where now that the court decided that we allow the third, now I think they're going to look into sort of like a consultant type of legal system, if I read the paper correctly. Dr. Scoyle?
Thank you. Well, I believe that we have agreed that we will hire, in fact, there is a posting for an in-house counsel, correct? The problem is we're trying to get, someone that's highly qualified, and that's been a little bit of a problem. But Mr. Springston, with all that's been said and done, what options do we have? I mean, what if we brainstorm as to how we can save on this, what do you suggest or recommend?
I have gone through the process and have gone through interviews, in fact. Did this in, Ms. Fox, when did I do this? This was in November, 1st of December. I started some interview process. There was two problems that I found and that I encountered. Number one, it was the number of people who have actually applied for the job. Number two was the number of applicants who actually wanted to retain their practice and still be a part-time employee and only being used when we need them here. And I was looking at this in-house position as a position that somebody that would be here full-time and would be on call for us whenever we needed them. They were here. It was not just an 8-to-5 job. They were here, like we're here, and to use them in those types of capacities. And then again, I had to look at the overall experience with educational law, special populations, how to handle with grievances. Those are all types of the things that I was looking at and have not come up to a conclusion, and I'm looking at reopening the entire process again and looking at another opportunity of how, and Ms. Garcia made a good point here when she talked about and benefits and those types of things that we might have to look at as far as attracting those types of applicants.
Are we advertising statewide or nationwide, or who are we?
Yes, it's statewide. It's on the web.
Statewide. Okay. So, well, if it's on the web, I guess anybody anywhere can log on and see it. But are we doing something more aggressive to try to recruit somebody other than just post it on the web?
I have not gone out and made phone calls. No, I have not. I've just been doing some postings. I've had some that have dropped out.
How can we get more aggressive on this? I mean, as far as from a human resource perspective, how can we recruit someone more aggressively? Other than just posting on the web or going to job fairs or I mean, any suggestions?
Is possibly making contact with universities, with students that are
law schools,
that are law students that are in educational law.
Yeah, the problem is we don't want a fresh graduate. We want someone with experience. So
that's where
maybe a retiring law professor.
That's where the gray area comes in.
A retiring.
And it's all looking at the legal fees and if when they drop, and are they dropping? If we're getting out of that era of the grievances, because we're working a lot better with some of our organizations, and we're even looking at some interest-based problem solving at some of our schools that I'm working with the organizations that I'm working with, and we're looking at doing some training with our staff members, principals, and some of our AAs in those areas at 5 different schools as a start off. And learning how to solve problems before we get to that grievance level so that we can actually save money there and then expand those programs once we see how they're going to operate. I'm game for working on different ideas so that we don't have grievance. We solve grievances before they actually go to a level 1. We communicate. We build those relationships. There's different ways and there's different avenues to do this, and whether it's not with an in-house attorney, or whether we're looking at lowering the fees total throughout the district. That's something that we can talk about as a board, and then the board eventually have to vote on and look at.
Mr. Springston, I really believe that there's ways to do things, and grievances don't just come out just because people want to grieve. I can assure you that they grieve for a reason, and that because discrimination, well, we know the way. I don't want to share a lot of it on camera, but the way people perceive things and see things, it is what it is. I mean, you can't change that because we've implemented things the way we want to. We don't go by policy. We don't go by procedures, or the policies are there, but we don't follow them. And that seems to be a problem. Now, I have a concern because I want to know, when does the attorney come into the picture when a grievance is filed? Does that attorney automatically do they give him the file immediately, or is it after it gets to the third level that he needs to come into the picture? Because if I just have a concern. If the attorneys are starting to bill as soon as level 1 hits, then that's not giving administration the opportunity to resolve the matter. It's like the due process. Due process are coming into the picture, not because we're not trying to solve the matter, because right away the attorneys come into the picture. Due process, let me get the file, let me review it, don't act on it, let me take care of it. Then why do we have administration or management to give them the responsibility of making decisions if they can't make decisions?
Not a problem. I mean,
She asked you a question. The question was, when does it start?
Well, it starts with Ms. Fox.
No, the level itself.
The level 1, it goes directly to the lowest
The question is,
administrator.
when does the attorney start billing?
It depends on the type of grievance that is being filed. But we review them with Ms. Fox. Ms. Fox, then we talk about them, we discuss them, and they are held at the lowest level. Yes, ma'am. You can shake your head, no, but we look at them at the lowest level.
Please,
I'm going to let you finish, and then I'm going to go.
Let's let him finish.
Ms. Fox, would you please assist me here? I'm not sure exactly where she's going, but I know that when we get levels and grievances that come in, I know that we actually make contact. Usually the grievances are coming in through the associations. Our first contact is to make the lowest level administration work with the association, and we try to sit down and come up with a way that we can solve our problems. And that's what we do first, am I correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Mr. Springston, Mr. Aguilar, members of the board, Ms. Garcia, the process that we have, it's a standard process that we've trained all our principals and administrators on. The level 1 grievance is primarily filed with the person it's against. In other words, a teacher files against a principal. It begins at that level. And the process is that the principal, as an example, a teacher would file a grievance against a principal. The principal would then send me a copy of it. I look at it. I work with the principal individually. We follow the process that we have in our manual. They hold the grievance, as Mr. Springston said, at the lowest level possible. Following that, if for some reason there might be something that I might suspect needs to see an attorney, I would consult first with Mr. Springston. Generally speaking, that is not the case. The grievance then would proceed on to level 2. And again, the attorney would not be involved. It's my responsibility to assign, and usually an area assistant superintendent, to hear that level 2 grievance. We're on a rotation schedule with them, and different ones hear different grievances. Then following that, once that ruling has been made by the hearing officer, and it